Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be making or remaking some of the most famous Minecraft skins out there, several of the Dream SMP members. We're starting off with Skeppy. So Skeppy's mostly just got this diamond block thing going on, and we're going to get into that and fixing up the actual diamond part in a bit. But first of all, I wanted to sort of reimagine what this skin would look like. So I threw a suit and a vest on him, gave him a tie, some rolled up sleeves and things like that. And hopefully what this will do is give him a more updated flair. As you can see, I'm also sort of adjusting some of the edges. It looks like the original skin maker actually just sort of went with a darker version of the blue that was there, but it made it kind of green, so I changed it back to blue. The shading is a little bit different than what I would normally do. It's a little bit more messy, but it's supposed to be more subtle. I'm trying to update the diamond to look a little bit more like what you'd expect from a modern texture of a diamond block. And then we're simply adding some shading to the sleeves and the rest of him. If you think that this skin reminds you of something, and you're a Fortnite player, you're not wrong. I took a little bit of inspiration from the Midas skin that's out there. But yeah, so I think that this new Skeppy has a little bit more of a smoother diamond texture, and as you can see, it's just a little bit less harsh and derpy than the original one, and has a little bit more in the way of shading. I really like how this one turned out. Next, we're moving on to the main man himself, Dream. Now, Dream is tough because his skin is so iconic as is, but there's a very common interpretation that gets used in fan art and things like that, including fan art that Dream himself posts and promotes. So that's sort of the look that I decided to go with. We're putting a Dream in a hoodie, we're gonna give him some gloves, we're gonna give him rolled up sleeves. This is inspired by, but not a copy of, the appearance that he had in his fake out face reveal in Mr. Beast's YouTube Rewind. But I'm still trying to keep some of the sort of medieval warrior type of elements that a lot of the fan artists like to include. So that includes a sword that's going to be strapped to his back, as well as a couple other straps and armor guards that are sort of scattered around his skin. The fingerless gloves was also something that often gets used before he actually did the face reveal, the fake out face reveal. And it's something that I wanted to preserve again for this actual skin. The mask still has his face. The colors are still pretty similar to what you would expect from Dream. They match some of his merch and fan arts, but it's still something that is a little bit more of an actual character as opposed to just the admittedly famous goofy smiley blob just plastered at the middle of a generic lime green background. Speaking of which, here is the original as you'd expect to see it, and here is my brand new interpretation. So next we're taking on BadBoyHalo. BadBoyHalo's skin just screams angst. The black and red, and honestly I really dig it. But I knew that there were going to have to be some changes that I'd have to make. As you can see, I changed the arm so that the red kind of meets on the side instead. I changed up the shape of the hood to make it a little bit more rounded and I think more pleasing to the eye. He's got this symbol on his back that I really like, and I decided to try to emphasize that and give that a little bit of flair, so that would sort of be the main focal piece of his back. I did remove the diamond sword, but I think it's okay because it doesn't really match the color scheme of his full outfit anyway. I made a couple of the different elements 3D, made the tunic sort of wrap around him, emphasized the belts, even though the diamond sword is not there. I did decide to emphasize the actual straps that are on the back. In general, I think it gives him it preserves the look of what he originally had going on. But I also think that BadBoyHalo is a notoriously sort of nice guy kind of a player, and this sort of keeps that. Also, the headband on the top allows him to actually be able to remove the hood if he would want to, and he would still have sort of a headband going on up there, so he would still be a noticeable character, and it wouldn't ruin the look entirely to ditch the hood. A little bit of shading. You can see how quickly the shading makes things look like they're coming to life and really adds depth and interesting elements to the character. I really like the 3D elements on this character. I think it really makes his character and his personality pop, and he's still obviously recognizable as BadBoyHalo. And man, I really love the shape of the hood as it ended up coming out. So here's the original skin in all of its slightly angsty glory, and here's mine, a slightly brighter red, more defined shapes. I think it turned out great. Next, we're on to Tommyinnit. Now, Tommyinnit is somebody who has had his skin remade a lot because that blonde hair is really, really harsh. So the first thing we're gonna do is get rid of that and make it a little bit less extreme. I also removed a lot of the patchwork on his head because I just don't think that worked. I made the red on his sleeves darker. There was a weird pink line around the bottom of the shoulders that I removed, as well as added a red cuff on the bottom of the sleeve before realizing that wasn't going to work with the suit. Speaking of which, Tommyinnit has a suit that he can equip whenever he wants to get all businessy, and I wanted to make sure to preserve that. The suit is pretty much just a complete overlayer. I would have liked to layer this kind of stuff a little bit more, but it doesn't really work because there's only 2 layers, not 3. So I made sure to have that full suit. I kept the cargo pants underneath. Again, I would have loved to do 3D layering to make the pockets pop out a little bit more, but that just wasn't really going to work with what we had. A little bit of shading here and there. It definitely helps the cargo pants. Leading up to it, I was like, ugh, that doesn't look very good, but as soon as you actually add that shading, it turns out great. Now, a lot of people shade hair in a similar way, but what a lot of people do is take the back of the head and how they would normally shade that, and they just throw that on the top. I didn't do that. As you can see, I tried to give him sort of a hairline, and I actually think it really works. I haven't been able to recreate it in any of my skins since. Adding the shading onto the torso and the arms, just trying to bring it to life a little bit. He doesn't have a ton of shading on his skin as is, so I think this will really help make it pop and feel a little bit more modern. And then onto the suit, which really needed it because that gray is intense, and the black lining of where the 2 sides of the suit meet are really dark. So helping fade into that a little bit, I think helped. See, now he can still complete all of his business transactions. Here he is in his original version. This is the traditional no suit version. Here's my suit. I think that turned out really nicely. And here's my version of Tommyinnit without his suit, which is the much more iconic version of him that you would expect to see. Now, Quackity's skin is terrible, but it's terrible on purpose, and I fully understand that. Going into this, I tried to mess with the face a lot. I went through a lot of iterations, trying to preserve the look that he originally had. It was just really difficult. Onto the shirt, I'm not sure exactly what symbol is supposed to be on his jacket. I'm assuming it's an Adidas symbol, so that's sort of what I emphasized. I discovered that the stripes on the side were not actually even, so I fixed that as quickly as I could. I wanted to make sure that he could still do his favorite gag of turning his character naked in front of people, so I tried to preserve that. Underneath the jacket, we're gonna do a full torso with all the details that might be necessary. Making sure to add some shading, which is really the main thing that his skin needed at the beginning. And I think it really helps the jacket pop. He almost looks like cutesy. I don't know, I really liked how this turned out. There was a bit of an e-boy vibe, but not so strong as you might see in other skins. And I think that it really worked for this one. Hair was a bit of a pain. I went too dark the first time around, so I had to use some lighter shades to try to fix that up. Here we go, getting into all the muscles and shading of the torso. And yes, I did include nipples. I thought that he would really enjoy that, as well as the six-pack super muscled look. I thought he would get a kick out of that. I kept the short shorts though, because I couldn't go too far away from that. And the sneakers were on his original skin, I believe, too. So here's the original in all of its messy glory. Here's the shirtless, naked version. And here's my version. It's a really extreme change, but I think it works really well. And here's the shirtless version. A Technoblade arguably is one of these that probably doesn't need a change, but there are some things I wanted to do. First of all, he got this blue cape on his back that no one ever actually draws in his fan art, including any of the fan art he uses. Second, I wanted to take the jewels off the crown. I know that it's part of his fan art, it's used all over the place, but I don't like how they look. His face was tricky. He uses a Minecraft pig face. That's totally reasonable, totally normal, totally expected. I changed it up. I really like the look of giving him tusks. I thought he looked sort of hog-like and meaner, but still retains sort of the humorous element of, you know, it's a pig in a crown. I tried to give a little bit of 3D elements to the actual robe, as well as making it slightly darker. Tusks were tough, but I think they work in the end, and I think I would love to see something like that on his actual skin. Shading the head was a little tricky. As you can see, I just shaded it normally there, but then I put the crown on it and I realized that it comes down pretty far, so it kind of looks kind of sunburned as is. When you put the crown on it, it works in the end. Making the jacket sort of puff off of him. Trying to work out everything that was going on his stomach, by the way, was tricky. I ended up just deciding he had a sash over a shirt that wasn't quite tucked in right. Here we've got the back going on, adding all the shading that needs to be added. And there's our original version of Technoblade skin among the pigs. And there's the new version, a thicker crown, tusks, 3D robe, and everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is a new project that I really enjoyed. And if you guys would like to see some things like this in the future, please let me know. Let me know what YouTubers, whether they're part of the Dream SMP or not, you think could probably use an update to their skin. Or maybe there's something completely unrelated that I can take on. All right, guys, see you next time.